been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Happy spring. I'm the Reverend Kevin Tarsa. If we have not met, I'm privileged to serve this congregation. We're exploring the idea of being a people of place, becoming a people of place, in particular as this congregation prepares to take up a new home, not too far down the road, a couple miles away. So what does it mean to be a people of place is our question. So we thought we'd start the service with that larger context of the earth that is our home, that travels around the universe in Peter Mayer's framing as like a ship on which we travel. So thank you for entering that. We are going to greet each other in a moment, but to prepare for that, now's our chance to turn our phones to silent, at the very least, off if we can manage it in our own psyche. Yeah, it's okay to check. And so we'll take a moment to help each other feel welcome here. I would suggest, even if you're here for the first time, and for those who are my fellow introverts, now's your chance to take a breath, get ready, and invite all of us to be thoughtful and sensitive and aware as we're talking to someone. Look for the cues that guide some sense of how they might want to be greeted today, and what feels like a good question, what feels like a little too much of a question. But we'll take the time to help each other feel welcome, and I invite you to keep looking around and making sure that everyone is being welcomed. With that, I invite us to greet one another. Nicely done, nicely done. Thank you. Our land acknowledgement this morning is offered by members of this congregation's Nisenan team. And the team has been around for most of the last 10 years I've been here, with the goal of helping this community, this congregation, be in as right and respectful a relationship with the local Nisenan as we can possibly be, which a lot of the time means making it not about us And the team has been marvelous in this and helping this community do that. So members of the Nisenan team that are participating in this morning are Ann Lyon, Eileen Hale, Anita Wald-Tuttle, and Burnell Scott. Some of them via Zoom. Everyone's saying hi, Ann.
Oh, hi. Okay. To the indigenous people who lived on this land for thousands of years, spirituality was inseparable from other aspects of daily life. It was rooted in the interconnectedness of all things, the land, humans, animals, plants, and the spirit world.
With this basket of black oak acorns, we remind ourselves that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, resilient beyond genocide and generations of erasure and exclusion from California's history. We express our deep, heartfelt desire that the Nisenan people may recover more and more of their rich cultural heritage.
Let us remember with care and commitment that we gather today on Nisenan land. Let us remember today that we walk and breathe on Nisenan land, this land that has been nurtured and cared for so long by the Nisenan. They never ceded their land. It was taken from them. Only in the very recent past have they been able to buy back a very tiny portion of their homeland, UUCM, where they are putting down roots, caring for their elders, and practicing their cultural traditions without interference.
May we always remember that we are visitors as we celebrate with the Nisenan their rerouting in a piece of their homeland and the ways in which that enables passing on of cultural knowledge and healing.
Thank you to the team. I invite Frank Lawrence, also on the team, to offer our chalice lighting this morning.
This is Our Home, but Not Just Ours, by Laura Bogle. We gather here to remember this is our home, but not just ours. This land we live on, this water we drink, this air we breathe, these old mountains that hold us steady to our ground, these forests that give us healing green, these flowers that give us their beauty and fragrance, these fields that give us our daily bread, these stars that show us our place, the wilderness and tame backyards, all of it, our home. We remember the ancestors who've lived on this land and who've shaped it. The Nisenan, the settlers, the mountaineers, the farmers, the hunters, the immigrants, the artists, the families, the explorers, the business people, the engineers, the builders, the scientists, the teachers, the workers, the leaders. We inherit their choices. We gather here to remember this is our home and not just ours. So we light our chalice. May we remember and live what we know.
Frank, thank you. And since the first service, a box has appeared with birch trees on it. Beautiful. I wonder what's in it. It's a small jar with, it looks like pink sand in it. Okay, I really do genuinely wonder what is going to happen with this today and what it has to do with resilience. Please somebody come and tell me later because I'm going to be very curious. Is there someone who would like to carry the box? It's small today and not very heavy. Oh, thank you. Excellent. And we'd love to sing all of our youngest members on their way with this little light of mine.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community of the Mountains in Grass Valley, California. I'm Marlene Bottenfield, and I will be Reverend Kevin's worship associate for today. And a special welcome to those of you, who are on Zoom, and those of you who will be joining us later on YouTube. Today is a special day. Today, possibly, Shelley Covert member and spokeswoman, will arrive, but if not, Frank will be stepping in for her to share the Nisenan story with us. Last week, I had the opportunity to meet with Saxon, a member and representative of the Nisenan tribe, and the UUCM Nisenan team at our new home at Squirrel Creek. Saxon shared two stories with me. The first was about a large grinding rock located at another church site in the county. It had been turned on its side and a hole drilled into it where a large cross had been inserted. Saxon explained that whenever he sees something like this, he assumes it was done out of ignorance and not maliciousness. The other story involved yet another grinding rock. This one was much smaller, and the homeowner, in order to protect it and keep it from being destroyed or stolen, covered it with dirt. Saxon suggested to the homeowner that rather than cover it, leave it exposed and sit with it. Feel its stories. Traditionally, everyday life occurred around the rock. This was a family gathering spot. My husband Cliff and I have a large grinding rock on the land that we steward. We have always considered the area sacred, holding holy messages from the past. I feel as if I'm trespassing if I linger too long at the site. But with Saxon's suggestion, I will linger and listen for the whispered stories of the land. I wonder what whispers we will be hearing at our new home on Squirrel Creek. Just as the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan were able to find their new land to create their new home, we at UUCM found land for our new home and will be slowly moving there over the next few months. This is a time when we can ask ourselves, what are our dreams and hopes for our new home? And just as importantly, what can we as a community give to this new home? How will we honor this land? What can we do as a community to thoughtfully nurture and respect it? What commitments can we make to each other as we walk in this new space? Will we let the land guide us? Let's be stewards of our new home, steeped in deep respect, humility, commitment, and thoughtfulness. We will now sorry, I am practicing not using the word now, and it's a little hard sometimes. I invite the Nisenan tribe, our team, to read the land acknowledgement. Oh, they've done that. I'm sorry. Yes, I invite Eileen to continue, or to express why we continue worshiping, or not worshiping, but acknowledging the land acknowledgement.
So I'd been hearing that some people were saying, now that the Nisenan have their land back, or maybe the wording was some of their land, why are we still doing a land acknowledgement? As a descendant of people who benefited from the theft of Nisenan and other indigenous lands, and as a beneficiary myself of that theft, I have my own answers to that. But meanwhile, I learned from one of our pre-service slides that the Nisenan of this area had signed a treaty called the Camp Union Treaty that was to have given them a 12-mile by 12-mile area of land exclusively for, their own, in the western part of our county. We're on that land right now, those of us who are here in person, and many of us who are here via Zoom. However, that treaty, along with several dozen others made with California tribes, was never ratified by Congress, but buried, metaphorically, in Congress's basement. That these treaties ended up in Congress's basement is literal, but they weren't literally buried there. I started doing some calculations. I'm a bit of a math geek. And here's what I came up with. The area of the Camp Union Treaty is 12 times 12 miles, or 144 square miles. And for a clearer picture of what the Nisenan originally had to live in, tend, and be fed by, I arbitrarily took the amount of half the area of Nevada County. That is approximately 487 square miles, or half of 964 square miles. Then I multiplied those by 640, the number of acres in a square mile. UUCM's area is 232 acres. As you can see, Camp Union Treaty lands came out to 92,160 acres, and half of Nevada County to 311,680 acres. Then I did a bit more math, turning the acreage of UUCM into both fractions and percentages of the Camp Union area and of the area of half of Nevada County. As you can see, that comes out to some pretty small numbers. 1/400th of the Camp Union area and 1,343rd of half the county. Or, in percentages, 1/4 of 1% or 3/4 of 0.1%, respectively. If you want to see this on a map for easier visualization, here's western Nevada County with what I figure the boundaries of the Camp Union lands would have been, drawn in. That's the red outlined area. The small blue sort of circle is my approximation of the size and shape and the geographical position of UUCM. This doesn't account for other losses, the quality, the vitality of the land, and its biodiversity today compared to in 1848, pre-gold rush, or the loss of the culture and cultural knowledge, or other things that are, to our European minds, intangible. But I think this starts to answer the question, why do we still do a land acknowledgement? As a last note here, I just want to put on our mental maps the geographical relationship between Ulicha and our Squirrel Creek property. Again, here, the blue sort of circle is Ulicha, and the green, small green sort of dot below that, but above Highway 20, is our new home on Squirrel Creek.
Cypress, would you show Eileen one more time? Because we don't often get a chance to thank Eileen, who is there Sunday by Sunday by Sunday by Sunday, helping host and take care of and respond to and give feedback to us all around the Zoom experience. So I thought while we're here today, we'd thank Eileen for doing all that. And I invite us into a body prayer, which we haven't done for a while. But if it works for your body, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit. And we'll start with our hands together in front of our heart, this very universal symbol of attentiveness, focus, attention. And I invite you to take a few breaths and bring yourself to this very moment, this very spot, and nowhere else. In your body. With all that your heart holds. Notice what it feels like for your fingers to touch, if you have feeling in your fingers. Feel the warmth, the texture, the pressure. Notice what you see, even with your eyes closed. Notice what you hear. Notice if there's any lingering taste in your mouth. Notice what you smell. Notice where your body meets the earth. Maybe it's at your feet or the seat. And from here, at the level of the heart, our hands touching, invite us to open up our arms upward in essentially a giant funnel shape, with the idea of being receptive and open with gratitude for all the goodness that comes to us in our life without our doing anything even to receive it. Open to the goodness and then drawing that all in and down, hands over our heart, drawing that in where it can mingle with what's inside of us. And from there, palms up and moving outward to give out what we have in us to give to the world. And then back to our heart center. Opening up one more time to what comes our way, even those things that aren't perfect, but that still bring goodness to us. Draw all of that in to our heart. From there, giving out what we have to give in any given moment. Returning back to center. Opening again with compassion and care to even those things that are difficult and hard and frightening, that still bring us gifts even though we didn't expect them to. Draw all that into and from there give out what we have to give. And back to center and heart. And one last time in silence, with your own meanings.
Being white, listening to indigenous. Let yourself be earth, listening to rain. Make your mind welcoming soil. Let your surface be reservoir. Let the wetness land on you, accumulate, sit on you, puddling. Let it be slow in its sinking in, drop by steady drop. When the mind is parched, when the soil has forgotten how to sit in silence and receive the words of the rain, let it come to you. Let it land and settle and be absorbed. Give it time to sink in, to be received by the roots and particles, filaments and threads that know what they're doing without words. Be earth, listening to rain.
looking for Shelley. Let me name that Eileen shared with me back a ways around this poem that the invitation to let yourself be earth listening to rain was an invitation when we are listening to someone whose experience is different from ours, especially if we're from the status quo in a more privileged culture, to listen with an openness that does not make it about us and our needs. How do we listen to the Nisenan if we're not Nisenan in a way that's not about us insisting that we get what we need from that conversation even, or that it's not about us, it's that invitation to be earth, listening to rain, making your mind welcome soil. Simply receive. So this was an invitation to prepare us to hear from Shelley, which we may not be able to do at this moment. In the first service, and on the spot, I asked Frank if he'd be willing to give some background and to name why, maybe this time, what your position is or what your role is with the tribe again. So are you willing again, Frank? Yeah, thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. So my name is Frank Lawrence. I have been a member here for 21 years. I know because between services, 2 new members signed the book, so I got to look through the book, and because I couldn't remember when I joined. I'm a lawyer, and my career has been representing Indian tribal governments. I've been doing this for a little over 35 years. And about 6 or 7 years ago, I connected with the Nisenan tribe and started working with them and have been working with them ever since. Ulicha was a traditional Nisenan village before the gold rush, before European contact. And it, like all the rest of the land, fell out of Nisenan hands, and by the early 60s was a ranch of a little over 300 acres. And it was purchased in 1963 by a group of Quakers from the Berkeley Friends meeting for the purpose of establishing a boarding high school for Quaker youth. I've put 2 and 2 together, speculate just myself, with no historical evidence whatsoever, or very little, that the Vietnam War had something to do with that. That having an institution that supported Quaker youth in trying to get conscientious objector status was something that folks were thinking about in the Berkeley Friends meeting. So anyway, 1963, they purchased the land. They established the John Woolman School, which was a boarding school. And many people in this community attended that school. I think it was Nancy Finley told me during the break that she was in the first class there. She went to high school there from like 63 to 66, I think. And people who went to high school there in that time tell me it was life-changing. The stories that I've heard have been very significant about what a huge impact that experience had on people's lives, people that are in our community still today. The school sort of ran its course, and I think changing demographics decreased their enrollment. They morphed to a what they called the Woolman semester, which was a residential semester for high school students and gap year kids between high school and college. That ran for a number of years, also with significant impact on the people that participated in that. And then you folks may recall the Jones Bar fire that we had. That fire came up from Jones Bar, and that property is off of Jones Bar Road, off of Newtown Road, if that makes sense geographically. And it burned through the campus, and it burned, I don't have an exact number in my head, but I'm going to say 10 to 15 buildings, I think, and did tremendous damage, obviously, on the property. The property was owned by a nonprofit organization, and the board of that organization decided that it was really not sustainable for them to continue operating on the property. And so a few years ago, one of their board members reached out and, inquired as to whether an Indian tribe could own land. And the answer is yes, even one that's not federally recognized. And so that led to a long process of meetings and negotiations and conversations between the Woolman board and the tribal leadership, and culminated in opening an escrow, reaching an agreement to purchase the property. Lots of pain and sadness in the Quaker community locally, but also statewide and even nationally, around the loss of John Woolman, because it was such an important institution in that world. And lots of conversations about why would it be sold as opposed to donated. And there are very strong advocates within the Quaker community, particularly subgroups of advocating right relations between Quakers and indigenous people, which goes all the way back to William Penn in Pennsylvania, right? There's tremendous history there. There were loans provided by Quaker folks to help keep Woolman open and running, and the board felt a real obligation, I think, to make good on those loans. So a donation they felt wasn't doable, but a sale was. So we negotiated a contract. We with a lot of work, a lot of obstacles to overcome. Also, a lot of obstacles vis-a-vis the county, because the land was never zoned for the use that it had been put to, and there were conditional use permits that remained to be fulfilled, and there were a lot of issues: infrastructure, roads, fire safety, sewer, water, building codes, kitchen codes, just the list goes on and on and on of the issues that were there. But we were able to overcome all those. We got a contract, we got into escrow, and then the question was, how are we going to raise the money? And we did. This community here at UUCM, the broader Nevada City, Grass Valley community really stepped up. I'm sure a lot of people in this room made donations. There were significant donations from charitable foundations also. And the tribe was able to put the money together to close escrow and purchase the property. I think escrow closed, I'm guessing, about 1.5 years ago, something like that. And the work continues. We've improved, 2 miles of road that needed to be improved. We've installed engineered septic systems for septic systems that had failed long ago, and rehabbed housing and so on and so forth. I think there are about 25 structures on the property. There's the Quakers had their friends meeting there for many, many decades, and as part of the purchase, the tribe agreed to let them continue meeting there till they found a new home, and they recently have found a new place to meet in town, and so they're no longer meeting there. As I said, a lot of sadness and loss for people for whom that was a really significant place, for the friends meeting, for the school, for the semester, for the ceramics program that was really vibrant there from about 1970 on. A member of our community told me about coming back after his freshman year in college at UC Davis to help build the Japanese-style climbing kiln that was built there. So made it through all that, and now the property is in the tribe's hands. The tribe is not today federally recognized. And so what tribes that aren't federally recognized do is create a nonprofit corporation, a 501c3 in California, public benefit nonprofit corporation, so that there's a structure that the world recognizes that can apply for grants and can sign contracts and can rent space and do all the things that organizations and entities need to do. So the Nisenan tribe has a nonprofit that we refer to as CHIRP, which stands for California Heritage Indigenous Research Project, which is a mouthful, so we say CHIRP. So CHIRP technically is the owner of the property for the benefit of the tribe and the tribal members. And it was a tremendously significant moment for the tribe. The tribe had land that was set aside for the tribe's benefit in the late 1870s on Cement Hill in Nevada City. That was an individual Indian allotment for the tribal leader at the time, but tribal members lived there in community. In 1913, President Woodrow Wilson signed an executive order that set that 75 acres aside as a federal Indian reservation for the entire tribe's benefit. So at least since 1913, and really probably since the 1870s, there was at least a 75-acre piece of land with very poor infrastructure and I hesitate to call it housing even, but folks lived there. Through 1964, the year after the Woolman property was purchased by the Quakers. In 1964, the government sold the land on the consent of two tribal members, elderly husband and wife. And there's a lot of historical questions about whether they understood what was happening, whether they were in a position to consent to it. No other tribal members were consulted or voted or gave their consent to sell that land, but the government sold it. And then, compounding the government's error, in my view, the government treated the sale of the land as terminating the government's political relationship with the tribe. Indian tribes are governments in our legal system, and in federal law, we talk about a government-to-government relationship between the federal government and the tribal government. That's federal recognition or federal acknowledgement. And the way that's achieved has changed and evolved through the history of the country, our country. But the government, in my view, wrongly treated the sale of the land as extinguishing the political relationship and therefore terminating the tribe from federal recognition, which means if you're an Indian tribe, if you're federally recognized, you're eligible for all the benefits in Title 25 of the United States Code. There's a whole code, federal code, all about Indian tribes, and many, many other programs and benefits in, from areas from housing to education to healthcare that tribes benefit and tribal members benefit from. If you're not federally recognized, none of that is available. So it's a huge, huge distinction in the law and what it means for tribes and tribal members. So that was lost according to the federal government in 1964. So since then, the tribe and its members have not had any home. And I don't have the exact numbers in my head, but an educated guess is that 3/4 of the tribal members live below the poverty line. Their housing stock was terrible. I could go on and on about the condition of a lot of the housing stock, and that ripples through what's possible for people in their lives. If you don't have a stable house, if you don't have heat, if your roof leaks in your bedroom, it's hard to do much of anything else. So since the tribe acquired the former John Woolman, now referred to as Ulicha, the ancient village name, tribal members have been moving into the housing stock that's habitable. And so it's really just in the last year, a little bit over a year, that Some of the tribal members that have been in the most need have been able to move in and get decent housing that's stable, and also be in community together. And that is an important piece culturally for tribal members. You know, it's hard for me to overstate how significant that is. So cousins, aunties, nieces, nephews, you know, all living in community and able to pop into each other's homes and talk about what's going on and so on. The property also has some communal spaces. It has, I think, what was originally a barn for the ranch that became the Friends Meeting House. And that space is now available to the tribe and the tribal members. There's what was the school. There was office space, classroom space. That's available now for office space for the tribal functions, also for CHIRP's office space functions. And then the classrooms and meeting rooms are available for a lot of the programs that CHIRP runs. CHIRP has a number of grants that provide for support for tribal members, health and wellness, counseling, educational assistance, those kinds of sort of social safety net kinds of programs, but specifically for tribal members. And that's being able to be operated now out of the UUCM space, which has been fantastic. And the reports that I've gotten are that in a year, a little over a year, the transformation that all of that has meant has been really tremendous for the tribal members that are living there. And there are people who have been able to turn their lives around in that generic phrase that we use in really beautiful ways. I think, you know, at the beginning of the process, I think there was some thought that it might be a public-facing space, you know, to continue CHIRP and the tribe's sort of public education and outreach. You know, they have the Ubaseo Gallery on Broad Street in Nevada City with native art and history and cultural representations. But there was some thought about that. But I think what's happened as they have inhabited the place and it's become a real home, they've realized how important that is and how it's almost essential for people's survival in a way. So I think right now there's been some rethinking about, you know, how do we navigate the private internal tribal homeland and the public-facing outreach to the community that the tribe has, I think, done an amazing job of. And the fundraising campaign to buy the property is an outgrowth of that, right? That awareness that they've built. And also the political relationships that the tribe built with the county. There were county supervisors who were strong advocates of the tribe being the next steward of this land, and really were essential. And Sue Hook, who's the supervisor whose district the land is in, and Heidi Hall, who was the District 1 supervisor that comes right up almost to the border of the property, both had built, the tribe had built long, deep relationships with those supervisors, and now came an opportunity for them to step up and support the tribe in making this happen, because the barriers from the county bureaucratic staff and the building department and the code enforcement department and the environmental health department and on and on and on was looking like it was going to make it impossible to close escrow. So there was a lot of leadership. The former county council, the head of the community development agency were all very, very supportive. So all of that public-facing work, crucial, couldn't have happened without it. And, you know, I think from the tribal members' point of view, like, do we want to be doing that in our homes? You know, like, or is that it? So that's a conversation that's going on. There's a real desire, I think, to invite the public there, but figuring out where and when and how, you know, there's a lot of deferred maintenance, you know, a lot of permits that still need to be issued, and there's a lot of work to be done. So I would encourage us all to be patient if we feel like I have a lot of friends who contributed and they're like, I want to go. When can we go see it? And I was like, well, just patience, just take a breath, and let's as Reverend Kevin said, let's listen to them. Let's wait and listen to them. And if and when we get an invitation to a public event, fabulous, right? It would be great. But it's really for them. It's their home, and it's kind of for them to invite us. So that's a little bit of an update. Is that good? Okay.
Frank, thank you very much. And as I'm listening, I'm realizing what an invitation that is to all the rest of us to let go of any of our expectations around our needs, right? What does support look like? It's hands off, right? It's just a listening piece, so thank you. We thought we'd light our candle of compassion, resistance, and resilience, which we've been doing for a year now, at this point. In this case, after hearing Frank and getting that update, but with the legacies of the Nisenan in mind, the compassion, the resistance, the incredible resilience of the Nisenan. As we've been looking at what's going on in the nation, it's indigenous people of color who tell those of us who are surprised by what's happening that we should not be surprised, that there's absolutely nothing new about this, that this has been the truth from the beginning, and I'm aware of that as we're meeting today.
Our weekly contributions, in addition to helping UUCM, also help another organization within the community that shares our values. 50% of our offering this month will support Freed, whose mission it is to promote independence and self-determination for people with disabilities through person-driven services and leadership that advocates for fully inclusive communities. Thank you for your generosity in everything that you give and do. We dedicate these offerings to the vision of a resilient community nourished through connections to each other and to nature and to place where our souls are fed so we can journey onward.
Thank you to all the people who make a Sunday morning work. Those of you who are familiar from here and recognize a name on there, I invite you to seek out one of those people after the service and to say thank you. If you're not familiar with those names, you may just have seen someone do something today, whether it's with the AV or the greeters or Marlene or the music. Feel free to offer some gratitude afterwards. I'm going to invite Marlene to speak to this next announcement.
So the land team for our Squirrel Creek new home is looking for helpers. For the next 4 weeks on Tuesdays, we're going to rotate between morning and afternoon help. So if you got a pair of loppers or a pair of gloves and you're itching to be outside, there is a clipboard that Sue will be holding out she's got it up in her hands right now, out in the lobby area for you to sign up. So come out and have some fun with us.
And if you're on Zoom, feel free to check in with the office, check in with Marlene to sign up. Yeah, thank you. Women's Circle meets on Monday evening. Come and join. Arts and Crafts is a drop-in on Friday. Every Friday, bring the stuff you're working on and either work in quiet and listen or chat with other people. Community business meeting is next Sunday. This is important for members to know. So at 1 o'clock after the second service, we'll affirm this coming year's task forces, among other things. And the postcard writing around the next elections starts up again, starting on Monday, February 16th. Here comes the next round, so watch for information. And members and pledging friends, our congregational dinner, kicking off the capital campaign, etc., will be February 28th. Please mark that on your calendars so we're ready. And always, please check out the website, sign up for the newsletters. It's a way to find out in an ongoing way what's cooking here at UUCM, which is ever more stuff, it feels like. For our closing song, I invite us to sing a relatively traditional song, but in a slightly new form with a little different rhythm and with a chorus that is simply "Oh." So if this is new to you, that will, at the very least, will be easy to sing along with. I invite us to rise in body or in spirit and to sing. Here's what the O's sound like. Oh, the next one starts right there. Oh, first one's higher, yeah? Oh, the next one's a little lower, it starts right there. Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. gathered here to remember this is our home and not just ours. Let yourself be earth, listening to rain. Make your mind welcoming soil. Let your surface be reservoir. Let the wetness land on you, accumulate, sit on you, puddling. Let it be slow in its sinking in drop by steady drop, that we may become each and together and with respect and humility a true people of place. So may we be. And we'll carry any goodness that has arisen in this hour together with us that will extinguish the flame, the symbol of this religious tradition, with these words to each other. Let us carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. We'll see you next Sunday, where we'll look at fierce compassion as one way to meet this moment. We'll see you then.